Hi, so I'm delighted to be here with Tim Spector, who is one of the co-founders of ZOE, a business that Boldson's recently invested in, and to learn a bit about ZOE. At a very high level, ZOE is a digital health company which is pioneering new insight into nutrition science. And Tim, one of the co-founders, as I mentioned, is also the Professor of Genetic Epidemiology at King's College London, where he's been pioneering some incredible research over the last 25 years or so. Tim, great to have you with us. Thank you for joining. And maybe just to kick things off, if you could just give us a little high-level colour on what you're doing with ZOE.
Well, ZOE, yeah, I mean, we started 5 years ago, and it's all around big data and science and nutrition. And essentially, we're using big data approaches, large-scale experiments, to get enough science behind it to personalise nutrition advice for individuals. And that's essentially what we're doing. So we did these very large studies in the university, in the UK and the US, and have now translated that into a commercial product, which is now being used in the US and soon in the UK to help people really change their lives by getting to understand what foods suit them individually, rather than just being told that one size fits all and there's one way to eat. So it's really radically changing how we see nutrition and empowering people to make their own choices just by the use of an app.
Incredible. Well, we'll drill into that a little bit more shortly. But maybe first of all, my first interaction with ZOE was going to one of the studies you were doing very early in the company's life, the PREDICT study, and visiting King's College for a day and being in a room with 10 twin pairs, which was kind of quite a surreal experience on its own, and having various tests run and kind of things extracted from my body. Before we kind of go into that study and what that's led to, I'd love to hear a little bit about the work you've been doing with twins over the last 25 years and how that really flowed into the founding of ZOE 4 years ago.
Yes, so it's over 25 years ago I set up the UK Twin Registry based at St Thomas's near Westminster Bridge, and we now have about 15,000 twins that we are logging their health regularly, and many of them have been coming for 25 years, and identical twins and non-identical twins. And initially it was all about working out what conditions and problems were due to nature and what due to nurture. People didn't know that 25 years ago, and by studying how similar identical twins were compared to non-identical twins, we could work out, for example, that back pain was actually more genetic than breast cancer. We could work out that your personality was 50% genetic. Literally, we could look at anything that you could measure and give an idea of how strongly or weakly genetic it was and how much lifestyle was there. So that was really an amazing toy box to have. You know, I could play with it, and we could do any kind of additions. And then we started looking at genes to see which genes underlie this. And the last 10 years, I've been more interested in why twins are different. And so I first looked at whether genes are switched on or off, the so-called area of epigenetics, and thought that had only a small effect. And then I discovered the microbiome, and that was really for me in about 2012, that was the aha moment. Their microbiomes are completely different. And from that moment on, really, then I was determined to really study the microbiome, study nutrition, and this whole idea of us all having totally unique individual microbiomes was the launch really of personalised nutrition and health advice.
As I mentioned, I went through the study, which consisted of samples of blood, of saliva, of your microbiome bacteria complex, which obviously, by the way, of course, your microbiome is is actually a second brain living in your stomach, which has got all of these bacteria which are digesting all the food you eat and having a major impact on your health. So you ran that study for, I think, for a couple of years, over thousands of people, and what did you learn, and what's kind of come out of that that's led to what you're doing now with ZOE?
Yeah, I'll first touch on what the microbiome is. So my interest was in the microbiome, which is the community of microbes that all of us have in our lower part of our guts, around 100 trillion of them, about the same number as the cells in our body. They're bacteria, they're fungi, they're parasites, they're viruses. And best way to think of it is a new organ in our body. It's like we've discovered a totally new organ, like a second liver. And they are chemical factories. So they produce most of the vitamins, most of the metabolites, chemicals in our bloodstream. They supply our brain with neurochemicals, key for our immune system in fighting infection and allergy. And they are crucially important to our body. We can't do without them. So, and they interact with food. And the healthier they are, the healthier we are. So it was really, everything we did had to bring this new organ into play. And up to now, really, everyone has said genetics are the be-all and end. I've been saying it to most people as well, that everything's genetic, don't worry about it, there's not much you can do about it, we'll just have to find the genes and sort it out. But it turned out I was wrong. Although we used nearly 700 twins for this experiment and about 400 other singletons, it was useful to show that actually genetics weren't that important. That shows we all respond very differently to the same food, which really is a game changer in terms of how we view diet. And if we could capture that, we've got an amazing recipe for health just by giving nutritional advice.
Yeah, this is extraordinary, and this is obviously one of the reasons we invested. But, this has a profound impact on our understanding of how people's bodies are so different, and that it's not as you say, not a one-size-fits-all nutrition set of advice that makes sense. People need to understand the specific behaviour of their body and how they metabolize different foods. You now have enough pattern matching from your studies that you're able to then tell people what their individual responses are going to be to different food. How has that been going, and what sort of impact are you seeing that having on people?
The ZOE kit now gives you probably the most in-depth profile of your gut microbes that you can get, with full metagenome sequencing, including parasites and other newly discovered bugs. And with that, we can tell you what boosters to eat to increase your good bugs and reduce and suppress the bad ones, and so change that ratio. The model we have now is that we've got data on 10,000 people's microbes and diet in great detail, which is the biggest data set in the world. But the lovely model is that the more customers we get, the more data we get, and the better the algorithms get. Really, it's sort of endless about where we can go with not only the foods, but how to eat. Should you eat more in the evening or the morning? Should you snack? Should you not? When is the optimum time for your metabolism? Should you exercise before or after you eat food? All these things are going to become very clear in the next round of analysis that we do, because we have this huge, amazing source of fantastic data.
Along the way, of course, in the UK, you've also become incredibly well known for the ZOE COVID Study, which is the world's largest community-sourced study of COVID symptoms and cases, and has had over 4 million people contributing to that study over the last 18 months. Tell me, how did that come about, and why was that something ZOE got involved in?
Well, it was nearly by accident. The ZOE COVID study really came about as my department was being shut down by the university in mid-March. And we were stopping all the twin studies and nutrition studies, and everyone's very depressed. And I cycled home, and on the way I said, well, it must be something we can do that doesn't involve coming to hospital, and came up with the idea that if we had an app that could actually get symptoms of people, we could work out who's being infected, who isn't, and we'd get a picture of what's happening at a time of total chaos. We got ready in 4 or 5 days. Quite incredible, and we launched it on the first day of lockdown, and it was an overnight success. We put it on social media. Within 24 hours we had 1 million downloads. It's been a phenomenal journey, and it's most people know what it's achieved, but I think it's, as well as in helping the fight against COVID, discovering new symptoms like loss of smell and taste, and given amazing data on vaccination side effects, etc., in real time. So it's faster than anything else, and we've consistently beaten the government and huge teams with their cumbersome apps. We're transforming this into a general health app. I think it's totally going to change the way health research is done.
Maybe looking forward a little bit, obviously you mentioned that the ZOE app and service is live in the US, and you talked a little bit about the future of your health studies. What else can we expect from ZOE in the coming months and years? And for us in the UK, when do we get our hands on the service? Because I think there'll be a lot of people keen to sign up.
Yes, no, I think it's the question I get asked most is when is it coming to the UK? Because obviously ZOE is really well known now in the UK, and there's huge consumer demand. I think we have over 100,000 people or so on the wait list, desperate to get hold of it. We're hoping it's going to be the first quarter next year. Obviously lots of logistics and COVID and Brexit providing getting all the materials in place, but it's definitely going to be the first part of next year. Exactly when, I don't know yet, but that's going to be a very exciting time. It's a sort of ongoing science project that we can keep improving and tweaking, and it's great fun.
It's amazing, and we're delighted to be shareholders and to be supporting where we can. I think we look at a lot of things in digital health, if that's the right expression, and ZOE is quite unique in this deep underpinning of science, which in the proprietary data set and models you've been able to build as a result of that, and defensibility around that, and being part of this next generation of what I would call preventative health. How do we better understand our bodies, how they're performing, where there's some underperformance, how do we improve that, and we can all live a healthier life through that approach, versus waiting for bad things to happen. So I think there's an exciting future, and we're all looking forward to that UK launch. We'll be patient. Maybe just touching on a little bit the journey of being a startup founder and reflecting on the last few years. I think there'll be a lot of other health and wellness company founders out there looking for advice, and just wondering if you have any thoughts on things that you've taken out of your journey that you would share with them. Any conventional wisdom that you suggest they ignore? Anything around those topics?
I guess, well, the first thing I'd say is that just taking a top academic and making them a CEO of a company is not usually a good idea. So I would make a lousy CEO. I'm a good scientist and I've got good ideas, but it doesn't mean you've got them. So I think teaming up scientists with people who've got really the right experience in business is absolutely crucial. Expecting one person to do it all, I think, they happen, but they're very rare. And realizing that people at the top of the science tree don't necessarily get good companies together and build things, I think is really important. Certainly, my lesson with George and Jonathan is, they had all the contacts to, in very short space of time, people trusted them, and then they then found the right science, and it all gelled very nicely. So getting the right initial team together is really important. The other is deciding whether you're going to, how much you're going to invest in science rather than marketing. If you can be patient, like ZOE, you spend 2 years doing the science, and you've got funders who understand that, then you've got a really stable platform to do it. And you get scientists that are at the top of their game and are well known internationally. And if the science is good enough, you find other people will want to join. And also, from the start, realizing you're not going to try and protect everything. We decided early on to publish our results in the top journals. We've published about 20 papers now, used academics all around the world, in papers in Nature and these other, the very highest ones. So it means that your peers realize that you are trustworthy. And so there isn't this difference between, when you ask other doctors or scientists, what do they think? They say, oh, it's rubbish. They can't say that. And so hopefully the public will now start learning the difference between companies that are based really on science and those that are based on puff.
Yeah, absolutely. So you touched on some science papers there. I guess for our curious viewers, they can access those papers. Are they published online, or if someone wants to read more around this?
Yes, they're all online. Our best ways, everything is on the ZOE website at joinzoe.com. You can look at publications and you get direct links to all of those and some of the ones we haven't had time to mention. So yeah, everything is publicly available to look at. And that's one of the fun things. And we've got so many exciting other papers in the pipeline coming out about processed food, the menopause, and ways of eating, this time of eating and sleep. We've got really some important discoveries coming out on how we should all be recording our sleep and going to bed half an hour earlier and things. It's very exciting to link science and commerce together in a way that keeps everyone happy on both sides. It's quite unique, I think.
Yeah, and I guess for our more adventurous viewers, there's also the Blue Poo Challenge that people can find out about if they're
I wonder whether you're
curious.
going to mention the Blue Poop Challenge. Poo in England, poop in the US, I think is the way to call it. So yes, if you search for that, you'll find the ingredients that you need to do it yourself, which is basic to make yourself, using some standard food dye, a blue muffin or something similar that you ingest, and then see how long that bright blue dye takes to come from your mouth down into the toilet pan. And we did this in the PREDICT study, the original one. It's now been done in, about 100,000 people. And the results are that, you can see what your average, are you better than the average 28 hours, I think it was, for the average person. And it ranged from about 6 hours to about 6 days.
Wow.
So there's a huge human range, and that is a rough guide to your gut microbiome. So if you're waiting for the ZOE test, do that first. That will give you a rough idea of where you are on this journey, and you can repeat it, change your diet, and repeat it. So it's a really nice tool that's come out of our studies that should be used in every study of the gut for future generations. So that a bit of fun, but also it's real hard science.
Super. Well, look, thank you, Tim. I think it's kind of incredible the marriage of science with health and data, machine learning, and what you've built already is incredible, both in terms of the insight, the initial application, and of course the work on studying COVID and now broader health symptoms. So we look forward to much more to come and to working with you on that. Thank you.
It'll be my pleasure. I'll come back and talk in a year or two about see how we're getting on.